I remember in our first little stage, it was a little condo in Escondido, and it was, not the best community, but I was like, hey man, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. So I didn't even think I needed a couch. I put 2 chairs in the living room there. And
It was pretty tight. It was like 400
yeah,
square
but
feet.
after the fact, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we get a couch?
All right, welcome back to the Realty Talk podcast, episode number 18.
Look at us go.
Yes.
And our first virtual podcast today.
Yeah,
so.
virtual podcast. We have some very exciting guests. Let's jump right into it without any additional introductions. I guess I will do a couple basic ones.
Yeah.
The queen of the closing table, Suzanne Sini here, CEO and founder of Innovate Realty. I am Paul Hansen. Super excited about the guests today. We get a lot of people that are agents or even sellers and buyers. And this subject we're going to be discussing today is an unbelievably critical component to maximizing resale value. And so I'm so excited to talk about it, but I would love for you to introduce our guests.
Oh, sure. Yes. So today we're really excited because we have Robert Lopez and Jessica, his wife, as well, who Robert is an agent with us at Innovate Realty. But a few years ago, him and his wife, Jessica, started a staging company and started out pretty small, but have picked up a ton of traction down in San Diego. So it's a really great dynamic, husband and wife working together, wife holding it down, I think, I don't know. But we'll talk a lot about that. And yeah, I mean, not only is Rob just an amazing real estate agent, works, does a ton of business, a ton of mentoring and leadership in real estate. But in addition to that, they have a really successful staging business as well. So I think staging, as you mentioned, is one of those topics that people talk about quite a bit. But I think most interesting is the story behind it. And, Rob and I were chatting before we started, and I know he'll get into it. But it's really about a dream and, when you have that entrepreneurial spirit and, how do you bring all of that together and how do you take risks, which we've talked about many times, and bring it together for a successful outcome. So
Tell us a little bit about Lux. I mean, I know a fair number of the details, but when was it started? I believe that I read this was a discussion over dinner, which sounds like a super interesting dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, back right after COVID, once we got back to normal in 2021, we were this close to launching a cleaning company because during COVID and the following year, there was such a high demand for houses getting cleaned before they were going to be put on the market. And, a lot of businesses had, gone into another venture because there was no contact and stuff like that. So, and staging was one of those topics. It was just so hard to get someone that it was trustworthy and did a really good job. And that's where it was like, honey, if I were to leave the planet, I want you to have something that you built and that you can tell the kids your legacy of how you started and how you were able to build something from your own creation. So I'll let her dive a little bit more into that, but that's pretty much a little bit of how the conversation started.
That's awesome. So where were you eating?
We were eating at La Conda downtown, or La Conde.
Is it like a cool vibe? Did that inspire the staging conversation?
Well, we had already had a little bit of a light conversation beforehand about hey, we should totally start a staging company. It would be so fun. We can get into it, with your work. And I had locked up the handle on Instagram, and I accidentally tagged that handle while we were at dinner. And then it popped up what's this? What's Lux Staging? I'm like, oh my God, did I accidentally put that on there? And it kind of just came out. And that's where it started, really. And then from there, we're like, all right, well, here we go. We're doing it then, you
Yeah,
know?
at that point you're already official. If you're Insta official,
I had no
you kind
choice.
of
It was
had to follow
Instagram
through
official.
at that point.
Yeah, totally. So that is kind of a little bit of a funny story when we talk about like how we came out with like, okay, we're doing a staging company, you know.
Love it.
So walk us through kind of the growth of the business. Starts in 2022. Obviously, I imagine it starts with one house, right? What was that like, selecting furniture, doing the first one?
Oh
How
my
did you
gosh.
price it? Had you kind of shopped other competitors to see where you should price yourself? Walk us through that first deal.
Yeah, it was scary, and I had like major like imposter syndrome. I kind of went off pricing with companies that Robert had used, and then I tried to be a little bit competitive because I was so new and I had no idea what I was doing. I hit up Living Spaces and Home Goods and didn't even have a couch. I remember in our first little stage, it was a little condo in Escondido, and it was, not the best community, but I was like, hey man, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. So I didn't even think I needed a couch. I put 2 chairs in the living room there. And
It was pretty tiny. It was like 400
yeah,
square
but
feet.
after the fact, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we get a couch?
Well, did the house
it looked
sell?
great.
Yeah,
I
exactly. How did it go?
it went great. It sold quickly. It looked
That's all that
great.
matters.
So I don't think anybody would even notice that there wasn't a couch in there except for us
No.
because after the fact.
Well, funny story on that one is, I think it sold 15,000 above asking. It was actually for Drew, my brother, and the person who bought that property relisted it with the same photos that he took.
Oh, that's
wow.
So it had the 2
So
chairs.
it wasn't that bad.
That's a vote of confidence.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Then
Right?
you're like, nailed it. That's it. This was
Yeah.
meant to be.
Did you send your virtual
Right.
staging invoice for that second sale?
Right? I'm like, hey, wait a minute here.
So that's also a little back story too. Drew was actually at dinner with us that night, and he was the person that I tagged accidentally on that Instagram handle. And he was like, "Hey, I need a property staged," and that was how we rolled into that first little job. So
Very cool.
So fast forward
Yeah.
to where we're at today. How many homes are you staging at any given time?
2022, we finished the year at 19 properties total. 2023, we had 44 properties staged.
Wow.
Year to date today, we've done 59. 60 will be here in the next couple days.
Awesome.
So right
Yeah.
now our inventory's gone from 1 property, and we can probably stage, I would say, probably between 18 to 20 properties right now at a
Yeah.
time.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
yeah, it happened quick.
So what do you do like with inventory? How do you track and manage what's going on with your stuff? Because obviously in that business, your largest capital expense is the inventory that you're putting in the properties.
Right.
How do you keep track of what you have and the quality of it? I mean, we had a the reason I asked the question, we had a property that we staged, not with Lux, unfortunately, which we should be talking about.
Yeah.
By the way, when you're ready for Orange County and LA, that's where most of our properties are. We are ready for you. But we had this property in Long Beach, and at one of the open houses, I'm assuming, or maybe it was a private showing. I think one of the little kids had taken like a red Sharpie, and half of the furniture was destroyed. So how do you
Oh my
keep
God.
track of those things and like inventory moving? What's that like?
Well, thankfully, we haven't had anything like that happen yet.
Got it.
We've had like a few little odds and ends where like I'll be like, hey, where do these throw blankets go? Or where's that candle? Like random things. And I'm like, all right, well, somebody got a new candle during an open house, you know? But for the most part, we haven't had any huge loss. We've had, we do have a, like a deposit fee that we charge, and if we do have to get something cleaned after the fact, like couches or carpets are a big thing that we kind of burn through. We do charge for cleaning fees.
So it's kind of factored into the model
it is.
in that situation. You anticipate that
Yeah.
things are
Yeah,
going to
there's certain
happen.
things that you just can't really hold on to for too long. So we rotate
It's
through.
complicated in my head because my wife and I moved into a new house a year and a half ago, and some of those furniture pieces, like a bed, for example, we took down and then put back together. And I'm like, holy shit, how do people do this? Because it was a short move, and it took me like an hour to figure out how to put the damn thing back together.
That you would have to ask Robert.
Okay.
He's kind of mastered. I'm not gonna lie. If it wasn't for Rob, like a lot of our stuff would probably be like wobbly and falling apart. He has definitely mastered one, taking care of our stuff, and two, like putting it together properly. So if somebody does sit on it, or it is being moved, every 60 days to a new property, it's still holding its quality because he does do a really good job with putting it back up every time. But it is hard. I mean, I couldn't do it, that's for sure. I'd be like, you know what, just, whatever. Like, we'll get a new one.
Yeah, I think the biggest component is just really, just paying attention to how to really maximize our efficiency, and just to purchase things that will deliver a good quality, but also can be disassembled in a short period amount of time. So, like one thing we had learned was, we had a good run on air mattresses.
Oh gosh.
And that's where, we had air mattresses that were self-inflating. Some you had to bring the little blower. And then all of a sudden you had a couple where that, I don't know if they got banged around, but they started to deflate, and then I would get a call. And
Midnight.
I'm like, oh,
Midnight
shit.
calls.
It's like, I really have to go all the way out to Fallbrook to change a damn air mattress right now. So Jessica's done such a good job with our home, with purchasing great products and building relationships, that she's had these trade accounts like Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, Living Spaces, and everything, where some of their floor model specialists have built a relationship with her. So now we get mattresses
Really good deals
that nobody's ever slept on for $100.
That's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah. And it's just, now we've learned, okay, no more air mattresses. they sound like they're a good idea, but in reality, they just cause more problems and more time consumed down the end. So, and I think piggybacking on the rest of what you had asked, Paul, is, since we're such a mom and pop business, some of our systems need improvement. So keeping track of some of the items and organizing, will be our growth period for the rest of the year, because, Jessica, to her credit, and, the design, everything regarding the look of Lux is 100% her. I just tell her, hey, I'm the laborer. You tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. I don't want to think. You do all the creative stuff. That's your personality. But she's done all this shopping, for over 20 homes with a 3-year-old on her hip, and having that to be able to propel her right now is like, it's kind of a shock right now. So the past 2 weeks, we had our 13th anniversary on Monday, and we got massages and didn't do anything but do a workout and get massages, and it was just very relaxing. It was heaven,
congrats.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, I've built a lot of relationships, I feel, with the local girls here. Like, I have my Pottery Barn girl, I have my RH girl, I have, somebody at every location where I like to source things if I'm shopping in person. And it also gives a face to the name too, because then they kind of, hey, like, text me, hey Lux, like we have this coming down, or I have fall going up, and, and I'm in there and I'm buying it by the trailer loads, and I'm so grateful for those relationships that I've built while building inventory.
How do you stay on top of like current design, right? Because at least from our perspective, at Buy House, we sell, maybe 50 or 70 houses a year. I've felt this with different stagers we've worked with in the past. Sometimes you see kind of the same thing and the same, kind of the same structure of house over and over again. And so we've really found a lot of value working with boutique stagers because they have more of a design-centric focus. How do you stay on top of current design trends?
Right. So I do a lot of like online education. I'm constantly checking out what's trending, what people are, gravitating towards. But then also I feel like it's my personal style too. I like to think that I have a pretty good sense of style, and I have an eye. I was a makeup artist for 17 years. So I feel like when it comes to making things look beautiful and, color contrast and those things, I am really good at putting something together that maybe somebody that, like, let's say just is kind of cookie cutter wouldn't think of doing. And I feel like that's what really sets what we do apart, because it's more of an artistic approach to staging, and I like really cozy, comfy, like those are things that I gravitate towards. And then I also do what's trending, like 6 months ago, the greens were not as trendy as they are now. Now you're seeing sage, you're seeing emerald, so I'm trying to incorporate that in my designs as well. And then I'm getting that feedback like, I love the greens. Oh my gosh, so just, you can find everything online nowadays, and you can kind of, just by your feed on Instagram, you can see what's trending, So I play off that as well as my own personal style and what I like. And everything that I design, for the most part, would be something that I would have in my own home. Like, am I buying pieces that are just like, oh, whatever, just buy a coffee table, we'll put it up, whatever? No, I'm buying things that really, truly speak to me, and I love them. And if I were to put it in my house, I would be proud to have it. So that's like, I think what sets Lux apart, because I see, staging companies that everything kind of looks the same, and I'm like, like that's not really us. I like different pieces, chunky pieces, woods, for the most part neutral, but still color, play here and there.
Well, to her credit too, sometimes when we walk, there's going to be investors that are going to do the same look with everything, right? Black fixtures, light tannish floors, but then there's also investors that will do, accent walls and paint that same accent wall, maybe the exterior wood as you walk in. And she plays off those. Like the one we did the other day, had like almost like a really, really light greenish, almost like a very light sage. And the design, the interior, the wall art that we use, the pillows, the throw blankets, some of the, the fresh stuff that she had picked out, literally just kind of played off that completely. So, to her credit, a lot of it is her customization when she does walk the property beforehand. And side note, she does put some of those pieces in our house. We do have a living room that's kind of our rotating living room.
I love that.
We have a family room and a living room. In the front living room, I laugh because I'm always like, it's like a showroom.
Awesome.
Like, I get furniture. Do I like it? We're going to use it for, this house. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. I have personal questions.
Awesome.
It's really funny because I feel like Paul is very like, I need to know the numbers about your staging company. And I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit. So, husband and wife team, I think, that in itself. And I, work with my husband in a capacity as well.
Yep.
So how do you guys balance that, especially with, I know you mentioned, 3-year-old with me at all times. Like, how do you guys balance that? How has that journey evolved, and from where you guys were before and now doing as many houses as you are every year? And what advice do you have to others to maybe that are thinking about going into business together?
Well, first, let's just start with like the fact it's not easy. Like, it's very challenging. Like, let's say, for example, yesterday, we were working and I took my own car to work, to the warehouse, even though he was there too. I was like, I'm just going to drive myself, and we really have to like separate ourselves when we are working from like that bickering married couple to like the dynamic duo that we are when we are working. And we have a really good flow. Robert and I naturally just make a really good team. Just our energy just flows really easily with each other. So even though he tends to be a little bit more of the alpha, I can definitely like take the lead role when we're working, and he's able to take that step back and do things that I'm asking him to do without trying to be the leader like he usually is, because he has been the leader of our family for so long. But in work, I feel like I take that initiative, and I'm like, hey, I need you to just do this, just be quiet, just carry this way, move it, but it is challenging. So we try to just, I don't know, there really is no secret sauce to it. It's just a day-to-day thing. And, some days are easier than others. And there's some days where I'm like, I am going to strangle you if you say one more thing. So go and like dust a shelf or something because I need you out of here, So that. And then, when we come home, we turn it off. Like, we're home. He's dad, I'm mom. We have 3 crazy kids. So it's like, we're able to like really draw the line. And I think that's one thing too that really helps us with balance is like when we're home, we're not like consumed with everything that's going on at work or what's happening at the warehouse or what's going up or down tomorrow. We're just like, all right, we have baseball practice, we have dinner. So I feel like that's something that I really have to congratulate us on, because it's not easy and it's very challenging, but I think we do a really good job of balancing everything and then kind of taking our space when we need it too, because you know, you work together, you live together, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much, we need a minute, you know. So even if it is that 20-minute car ride, yesterday it kind of helped me reset. I got there, I got to the warehouse, I was like, all right, now I'm ready to work. Now I can like talk and we can go over the plan for the day, you know. And I actually drove my car to the house too, because I'm like, I'm just gonna take my own car too, you know.
That's awesome.
So just that little separation, because we are together so much.
Yeah, I think, you know, on piggybacking on top of that is really just, I always tend to look at, you know, how I grew up, where both of my parents worked. My dad worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs at times. My mom did the same thing at times. And, you know, we have the opportunity to create our own schedule. We have the opportunity to bring our kids to work, you know, and sometimes the kids, they take these big gasps after work. We're like, hey, we got to stop by Home Goods really fast just to grab a couple of things. And, you know, our oldest one's like, oh gosh, how long is it going to be? You know, he's 12, he's going to be 13, so he knows everything. But, you know, just kind of taking those grateful moments of just the gratitude of, you know, the ability that we have and what we've built together, I think we really hold on to, and that propels us, and that, you know, gives us a sense of comfort with each other of like, hey, like, no matter what,
right.
we're doing something right. We're doing this together. And it's just a consistent, you know, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? You know, how can I make your day better? Of, you know, teamwork. So, and that alone is a crucial point in our marriage, let alone business partners as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I feel like that is advice for every situation, you know, whether you work together or not. I think, you know, it's an important component to recognize, you know, what the other is going through and what you could do to help. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredibly inspiring story, right? Like when I listen to what you're doing, I mean, obviously you're serving a need in the market, and we could talk a lot about, you know, the real estate dynamic and how important it is to stage. And, you know, the numbers kind of like we'll probably have 2,000 or 3,000 agents in Southern California listen to this. And I would bet that half of them don't use a formal stager when they go to list and market and sell a property. And you brought it up on the first one, you know, you sell for $15K over list. And then they use those same pictures to sell again because you did it so well. I mean, that you just can't quantify how important that is. But to me, what the most inspiring part of this discussion so far is what you're doing for your kids. I mean, your 3 kids have, you know, role models, and, you know, whether they like it or not, right? You say they gasp if we have to stop at Home Goods. I think at some point in their life, they'll look back and just be so inspired what mom and dad were doing. You know, and I really, you know, personally, and not to go like political and, you know, change the discussion, but I mean, to me, that's what we need as a country. Like, we need to be inspired.
Yeah.
And, you know, to have that at home from mom and dad, like, what a way to raise your kids. That's so cool. I mean, again, it doesn't make it easy. I'm sure they're complaining, you know, at certain times, or if they're eating out or something, but.
Well, they don't really understand what it is yet, you know. I try to, you know, as the mom, and, you know, I try to make the boys understand, like, hey, like, you guys really, you don't have an idea yet, but you will one day. Like, the sacrifices we're making now are for you guys, you know. Like, I grew up, my mom worked, she, you know, day, night, you know, and I spent so much time alone as a kid, and I'm like, you guys are lucky. We pack our lunches, we're at the warehouse, we're together, we're a family. Like, the 5 people that matter on this earth are right here. Like, we're together and we're doing this together. And the boys know, like, now it's like music to my ears. We're like, Mom, do we have stages this weekend?
That's awesome.
Mom, do we? I'm like, you guys are getting it. Yes. Okay. I'm like, actually, we don't, but we're taking the weekend off so you guys can chill and play baseball and do what you do, you know, but it's actually like a blessing for us, as chaotic as it gets and as crazy. And some days I'm like, dude, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Um, I lay down and I'm like, so grateful to be able to be with my family all day and not be, away for 12 hours and coming home rushing to cook a dinner. Like, I'm able to work my work life around my family life, and that's priority to me, like, and it always has been. So I'm super grateful for that
Yeah.
opportunity, even though it's
So
insane.
just a quick question about entrepreneurship and that venture. What kind of advice, because you're, a couple years into this, what kind of advice would you give to other people that are thinking about doing something but maybe haven't yet?
I think for sure it's, if we're going to, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail for ourselves, right? And what I mean by that is, and that's my wife saying is, we can go work a corporate job and 9 to 5 or do whatever you want to do, and that's your thing. But if you're struggling and it's hard for you, why not just try something on your own? And if you completely fail at it, at least you failed at it for yourself.
Right.
Versus, just living in a zone where it's like, well, I wish I would have did this or I wish I would have did that. And I think we're showing each other that, and also showing the kids that, look at, like, the sky's the limit. We don't have to, pick any route that you are forced to. Do what you want, and let's make the best of it. So
I think my advice would probably be to just do it. Like, life is so short, and if you're just gonna sit around thinking like, man, I wish I would have, like, tried this, and I think we've inspired quite a bit of people too. Like, my little sister, who was, like, going to school for something completely different, just started her own pool cleaning company, and she's doing great, and she's super busy, and and she's always, like, saying sweet, like, she doesn't tell us like, oh, I do this because of you guys, but she definitely tells us in her own little love language, like, hey, like, you guys inspire, like, me, and keep me going when her days get rough. And I think it's just something that you should do. Like, just do it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be super hard, and you're going to question yourself every single day, but just do it. That would be my advice. Just do it.
I love it. Well, we want to give you guys the opportunity, maybe if there's anything else we missed that you want to throw out there. How do people find you? What is the best way to reach out to you? Where do you service? All the deets.
So, we did our numbers last year, and on average, and homes sometimes are overpriced, sometimes they're underpriced. So the only way that you can really find a solid number is averaging out those 44 properties. And on average last year, each property sold $31,677.21 above asking.
Wow.
I know. It's so crazy.
Amazing.
So on average, right? I mean, it's, and if it's a $600,000 home, you've really just increased, your seller's net proceeds. You've paid for your own commission in a sense. And, I think that's one of the biggest factors of today's market, right? We're out of 2021 and we're out of 2022 where houses just sell. So, right, it's time for the agent to, develop their marketing tools and connect with someone who knows how to, maximize their profits and their sellers.
Yeah, and the easiest way to contact us, we're so small, and it's just Rob and I doing most of the intake. Call us, text us. We have our email accessible. We have Google. I've noticed a lot of our business has been coming from Google too, so that's also really a great way to reach out to us. We're fairly easy to get a hold of. You don't have to look too far.
We'll provide all the links in the episode, for
Totally.
Lux and in a way to contact you. But I would love to wrap by just, congratulating you guys on what you've created. I mean, again, I always generate my thoughts back to the business side. But if you're a real estate agent in that market in San Diego and you're not using Lux, you're doing something wrong. Because the data says it all, right? On average, they sold a house 5% over list price, which is not what's happening in the market as a whole. I mean, you're outperforming the market by,
Right.
4 or 5%, right? So, I imagine those homes are selling faster as well than homes that are not using Lux. And so, If you are a seller,
Right.
contact Rob. If you are an agent, contact Rob and, use Lux. It seems like kind of a no-brainer.
Thanks, guys.
I
Yeah,
think so.
of
Thank you
Thank you for
very
course.
having
much.
us.
Yeah.
That is a
Appreciate you guys.
wrap. Check back for new information, and please reach out to Lux if you're in that market and you need some assistance. We'll have all the links at the below at the bottom. So
See you next time.
see you next time.